when you tell me or ask me what are the major developments, actually one of the major developments in the last, let's say, decades, 5 to 10 years, was actually biomarker analysis. So actually, because it's on the one hand, you can measure the exposure of a human or an animal by analyzing the feed or the food which is consumed.
What are the latest challenges and trends in mycotoxin analysis? This is the topic in this episode of Future Feed Talks. I am Zanna van Dijk, an editor at Merced International Media, and this series is in cooperation with DSM, Firmenich Animal Nutrition and Health. I will be talking to Rudolf Krska, who is Head of Institute and a full professor at the University of Natural Resources and Life Sciences in Vienna. He will give us some insights on what the latest developments are in mycotoxins and feed. Rudolf Krska is a professor of bioanalytics and organic trace minerals and has in-depth knowledge in this area of food safety globally. Welcome, Rudolf.
Thank you for inviting me.
At the World Nutrition Forum this year, your presentation is on mycotoxins. Tell us, what are the latest developments in mycotoxin analysis?
Well, there are numerous, although I have to say that the greatest developments in mycotoxin analysis took place, I would say, between 2000 and 2015. So this was the era when mass spectrometry started. So there's really a game changer. There's this methodology which also all the people who watch CSI Miami or similar crime stories may be familiar with, which is actually a technique which can ionize substances. And by doing so, these charged particles can then be selectively detected according to the mass-charge ratio. So basically, we have a very sensitive and also very selective method which can be performed very fast. And not only to solve crimes, but also to determine mycotoxins.
All right. And so when you say fast, what does that mean in terms of time?
Well, it depends on whether you are aiming for detecting just one mycotoxin or whether you would like to go for the whole spectrum.
Full spectrum.
Whatever the spectrum is, because at the moment we know some 300 mycotoxins. There are many other mycotoxins, so every year there are new toxic secondary metabolites, because mycotoxins are toxic secondary metabolites produced by fungi, such as conjugated toxins, which are also called masked mycotoxins, where mycotoxins is being bound to a glucose molecule as a result of the plant defense response. So actually,
it's a mechanism.
So it's a mechanism. So actually, the fungus invades the plant, infects the plant. Could be wheat, could be maize, could be barley, whatever. And as a result of that, if the plant has some resistance, like natural resistance, which is genetically based, the plant devises some defense strategies. And one of the major defense strategies is actually that a glucose molecule is bound to the mycotoxin, making it non-toxic and making it also more water soluble, so that it actually can be excreted, well, not only in form as a glucuronide in the human body, but also in plants. The plant gets much more easily rid of these toxic metabolites, which are also immune suppressive, right? So when you tell me or ask me what are the major developments, actually one of the major developments in the last, let's say, decades, 5 to 10 years, was actually biomarker analysis. So actually, because it's on the one hand, you can measure the exposure of a human or an animal by analyzing the feed or the food which is consumed. The other way is actually at an individual level. And at an individual level, for humans, you would actually check for the urine. Well, could also do some blood analysis, and then check actually for the mycotoxins which are excreted by the urine, also for feces, but also mainly urine. But the other possibility is then to look for these detoxification products, because that also serves as an indicator
of what's
for
happening.
The exposure, right? For animals, well, the easiest way would be for aflatoxins,
So for milk, dairy, cattle,
definitely,
for
example, for dairy, that would be the relatively easy task, although also the analytical method has got its challenges. Would actually be aflatoxin B1 contaminated food or feed being fed to the animal, to the cow. And actually aflatoxin B1 is then being metabolized to aflatoxin M1, M standing for aflatoxin metabolite 1. And this actually is excreted via the milk.
Product, yes, and then it affects...
which is actually bad news for the food industry, right? So actually, that is actually what's so interesting about feed analysis or feed industry, because feed industry is certainly, or feed safety is for the safety of the feed, like food safety for the safety of humans. But for feed, the safety it's relevant for the safety of the animal, but also of the humans, because for some toxins, like aflatoxins, there is actually this transfer via the milk.
Yes, which could then be detrimental to human health.
Definitely.
So I just want to talk about methods. Are there on-site methods, or are there any rapid methods available to test?
Yeah, well, when we kind of continue with the biomarkers, definitely no on-site. It's a lab. It's a very sophisticated methodology where you need, again, well-trained staff, mass spectrometers, etc. But to check actually for the presence of mycotoxins in grains, in feed, in food, etc. There are, well, you could categorize actually as two major categories. One is the rapid method, and one is actually based on chromatography and mass spectrometry. When you ask me about on-site methods, well, certainly there's this rapid methodology, which has got this greatest potential to be used on-site. So, well, before COVID-19, you had to explain what is a lateral flow test, right? Yes. Or what they call the antigen test. Nowadays, there's no need to explain that anymore. Everybody knows. So basically, the principle is the same, like the COVID test, with the difference being that the antigen in this case actually is not the protein of a virus. It is actually the mycotoxin itself. So we have a competitive ELISA or immunoassays which are incorporated in a lateral flow test. And by doing so, we can actually get a yes or no decision whether a certain, let's say, regulatory limit has been exceeded or not. That is one way. There is also immunoassays which are available in so-called microtiter plate formats. So you have actually 96 wells, and well, that can give you something like 80 analyses depending on how many repetitions you carry out. But it gives you really the opportunity to check for a great number of samples. Well, not range, because it's designed for one mycotoxin only. There are only a few exceptions for that. But the ELISAs have the capability that actually with less trained stuff, with actually quite cheap or cost-efficient equipment, so to speak, to carry out a high number of analyses within a short period of time. Having said that, the ELISA still needs a reader, so you can potentially do it on site, like a small farm laboratory. Well, as we know from COVID again, a lateral flow test, you can do it anywhere, everywhere, right? But it's not as accurate, and it's rather a yes/no decision.
So you were talking earlier about that there are many sorts of toxins. How many mycotoxins and other fungal and plant toxins should we detect, and could we detect them all?
Yeah, thanks for that question, because that also brings us to a new detection methodology, because as you alluded to quite correctly, there is a plethora of mycotoxins out there. So ideally, we would cover those 300 mycotoxins we know of, but around a dozen is regulated. So it's also one of the key questions in analysis of mycotoxins. Is this for a regulatory purpose to actually to check whether a certain regulatory limit has been exceeded or not? Or is it just at, let's say, the pre-harvest level for preliminary checks at the farmer's level, whether there is a higher probability or lower probability that the lot is contaminated, and which can maybe later during the processing stage be a problem for food industry, where usually the levels are lower, and that is particularly true for infant food as opposed to the feed industry. So to answer the question, how many mycotoxins are there? Can they be detected? Yeah, there is this 300. Certainly, this should cover all the regulated mycotoxins,
right.
And all the other non-regulated secondary toxic fungal metabolites. Many of those also being mycotoxins. Are certainly a very interesting and sometimes also very important additional information, right? Kind of for getting the whole spectrum of what is the exposure of my animal, or as of me as a human, or of the consumer, to toxins, right? And then again, it's mass spectrometry, and this is actually the technique called liquid chromatography, coupled to tandem mass spectrometer. There is actually an electromagnetic filter, and what is being done, it's again actually the substance, the mycotoxins, being ionized, and usually positively charged molecules which are produced out of that ions are then analyzed in an electromagnetic filter in the mass spectrometer, and by doing so you can analyze several hundreds of mycotoxins. I'm very proud to tell you that in the lab I'm working, the University of Natural Resources and Life Sciences, Vienna, and its Department for Agrobiotechnology, we actually hold the world record in the quantification of contaminants, including actually all mycotoxins which are known of, which is actually a 1,400 substances, which actually includes 300 mycotoxins, 500 plant toxins, 500, about 300 pharmaceutical active substances, and also veterinary drug residues.
That's
so it's really, and that can be done in
extensive.
And that can be done in 45 minutes.
Oh, right.
Right, yeah. So that the machine can do this in 45 minutes. Certainly you have to do the sampling beforehand, very important to get a representative sampling, then extraction, and then usually we have to get rid of co-eluting substances like, you have proteins, you have fats, you have carbohydrates. These are all substances which are major constituents of your feed, of your food, making it actually very complex to analyze, because all these substances which are there in a much higher concentration than the mycotoxin, which is there at microgram per kilogram level, so 10 to the order of -6 a gram per kilogram. And by introducing a sound sample preparation, which is called a cleanup, you can actually remove the protein, fat, carbohydrates, ideally leaving just the mycotoxins in the sample solution, and then it's much easier to analyze, matrix-free, and
in a short space of time.
Yes, that is actually the sample preparation part, which you try to keep as simple as possible, because when you analyze a 1,200 or 1,400 contaminants, including all mycotoxins, in less than 45 minutes, and you spend 3 hours in sample preparation, you kind of spoil the entire process, right?
Right.
So also that is something which, when you're talking about recent developments, which was a breakthrough, actually a paradigm change in mycotoxin analysis, getting rid actually of cleanup and to develop highly sensitive mass spectrometers. Why highly sensitive? Because then you don't need the cleanup; they just dilute the extract. So like cooking coffee.
So it's basically skipping a step.
You're skipping a step, or making it much simpler, much more time efficient. Like when you cook coffee, also coffee can contain ochratoxin A. So it's an extraction process to get all the valuable compounds out of the coffee. And then actually, if you were to detect the mycotoxin in the coffee, same would be detecting the mycotoxin in the feed. then you would just dilute, and you dilute certainly also the matrix components, which are interfering with your mycotoxin detection. But if when the mass spectrometer is sensitive enough, it doesn't matter, because then you have actually a very nice dilution effect, getting rid of the matrix effect, but still being sensitive enough to detect the mycotoxins at lower concentration, and that's where we are. And this is why we are very time and cost efficient in the combination of this very effective sample preparation with just dilution, and then injection to mass spectrometer, which we call the dilute and shoot approach.
Oh, well, that sums it up.
Right, it sums it up in
So, Rudy, recently you wrote about toxin-free food.
Yes.
In your opinion, or in your ideal world, can you summarize how you would like to view food in the future and it being toxin-free?
Yeah. Thanks for asking me that question. By chance, I have the book with me.
Oh, that's great.
I brought it to Cancun. The ideal world certainly would anticipate a toxin-free food and feed arena. Having said that, it's an illusion, right? And that is also because of people of having my profession, because we as analytical chemists have a job to detect even smaller and more substances in the food and feed chain. There will never be a toxin-free food. However, what is very important is that we have a clear idea of the risks these toxins at these concentrations they occur in the food and feed chain mean for human consumers. What does it mean also for livestock producers, etc. And this is why it's very important also to come up with something like a risk ranking. We have done actually the toxin-free food evaluation based actually on the 100 risk evaluations carried out by the European Food Safety Authority. But certainly, as a nature of the beast, the European Food Safety Authority would not rank the risk. It's a very complex task, but as a university professor, the university team, we can do so. And to make a long story short, mycotoxins, especially aflatoxins, ranks among the top 3 most important food risks,
right.
Meaning also from a chronic exposure point of view. So we are actually facing here with the mycotoxin issue a challenge which is not only still on for the animal arena, but also for human food safety.
Right. Thank you, Rudy,
for
your insights into
Thanks
all
for
of
your interest.
the toxins and mycotoxins today. Thank you for watching Future Feed Talks. If you would like to watch further episodes, please go to the link below.